Hello there, it's Gabby here for you. And in this week's podcast, I'm talking with a very special young lady who I've met online, as I meet a lot of people nowadays. And Rosie's story is quite incredible and it's very touching, but quite uplifting as well. I really wanted to hear Rosie's story because she is such a special woman. Her background was she was a nurse in palliative care. And if you don't know what that means, it means end of life treatment. So she was dealing with cancer patients on a daily basis. So, unlike a lot of us that get diagnosed with cancer and you're confused by the terminology and what's going to happen and what the treatment means, Rosie knew all that. But what she didn't expect was for her baby son to be diagnosed with cancer. And what a shock that must have been for that poor young woman. And my heart really goes out to her. So she's going to share her story quite openly and very honestly. She's going to talk about her feelings, all the feelings that brought up. But there is a good ending to this story because her little boy did get through the treatment. Despite being diagnosed twice with cancer, he survived. Not only does he survive, he's thrived. And I'm sure a lot of that is down to having Rosie, such an amazing woman as his mother. But what Rosie says that really struck home with me was his recovery and his getting the all clear wasn't the exhilarating, uplifting experience that she thought it was going to be. She says his recovery left me feeling lost, overwhelmed, and disconnected from who I once was. But she found that coaching helped her reclaim her confidence and find her purpose beyond cancer. So I'm going to introduce you in a minute to Rosie. We're going to listen to her story. And I'm hoping that it leaves you uplifted and really feeling grateful for the lessons that Rosie's going to share with us about how such a devastating effect, how such a devastating diagnosis can have such an effect, obviously, on her husband, on the rest of the family as well. But actually for Rosie, it's given her a purpose in life. So I'm going to introduce you now. So just bear with and let's meet Rosie. Hi, Rosie. It's so lovely
Hi,
to speak to
Gabby.
you. So lovely
Oh,
to speak to you today. It's such a glorious day here in Manchester.
beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Great stuff. Whereabouts are you?
I'm near Bath.
Oh, lovely. Very nice part
Yeah.
of the world. Very nice. So, really interested. I know we've spoken before, but really wanted to share your story. So, I just want you to really tell us about how you do the work that you do, your story. How did you get into doing the work that you're doing now?
A couple of years ago, my son got diagnosed with cancer. And at the time, I was working in palliative care. So I was a palliative care specialist nurse looking after people at the end of their life. So my previous experience of cancer was quite a it was very much based around terminal cancer, terminal illness, and supporting people through that and fear of dying and everything. So it was all very much surrounded by that. So when my son got diagnosed, it was a horrible shock. And I think when you get the diagnosis of cancer, your mind just goes immediately, is it terminal? What's the story? What's going to happen? And you don't want to think like that, but it's just a word that's associated with it. For me as well, I don't know if anybody else has that experience, but for me personally, that was the first thing that like shot into my head. Um, and then the fears and the anxiety and everything just overwhelmed me, and we were then pushed into a conveyor belt of scans and tests and appointments, and it very much overwhelming. And it was it was a couple of months when he was having the tests and everything, and then they thought he just needed some surgery, so he had the surgery. That was 2022 he got diagnosed. So he went through the surgery and everything. They did a biopsy and we got the results back near Christmas to say that they think they got it all. It was
Yeah.
it was a lot bigger than they expected, so they were a bit worried that it was a tumor in his
Yeah.
testicles. They had to get rid of all of that, and they had to pull it out, and there was a lot of risk involved because of the size of it. And if they pulled it too hard, then it could collapse. If they went a different way, then it could go into the lymphatic system, and then it's everywhere. So the risks were there, but the surgery was fine, successful, and they got back and said they think they've got it all. Great. That was just a whirlwind of emotions, and I think me and my husband were like, because we're both medical, it almost would have been a bit more reassuring if he'd had the chemotherapy back then.
Oh, right.
And I think because we were talking to the consultants, and so he wouldn't need that much chemotherapy. It would just mop up
Yeah.
what was there. So we were preparing ourselves for some chemotherapy anyway. And I think when they said he didn't need chemotherapy, in the back of our heads, I think we were thinking, okay, but it was a really difficult thought, because our medical heads go, well, it's probably best for him to just have a round or two of chemotherapy to mop it all up, to make sure it's gone. We were very glad that he didn't need it. And then a year passed.
Yeah. Sorry, Rosie. What age was your son when this was all happening?
He was 2.
Oh my goodness. So
Yeah.
baby, really. Yeah.
Yeah. He had no idea what was happening. He was just taking it one step at a time, and
Yeah.
so it was very much on us and our daughter, really, who really understood a little bit. Our daughter's, she was 6 at the time, but she knew what I did for a living. And then, a year later it came back, and he did need chemotherapy.
Oh,
And it was when it came back, we knew he needed chemotherapy. It was, we had an understanding of what is likely to happen through those months, and it was just straight into chemotherapy. And so he had 4 or 5 rounds, and then it was all successful and everything. So he finished chemotherapy last January.
Okay. Did he have a lot of side effects?
Yeah. He took it he took every day as it came, and he took it one step at a time. And he was because of his age, he was 3 when he was going through the chemotherapy, and he liked the medical side of it. He liked watching them put it up and everything. The only thing he didn't like was them accessing the port, and it was horrible to watch him and try and pin him down while he was that was the most heartbreaking bit, because he didn't really understand it. But he got us through it, and I think if he wasn't strong, I wouldn't have been able to push myself through that. I thought, if he's strong, then I'll be strong. And then afterwards, I pushed my way through. I stopped. We took it one step at a time, and we were like pushing through it and on autopilot, getting through it. And then, when I really struggled when he'd finished, and the support had just been taken away, and I realized then that there's very little emotional support and lifestyle support after cancer.
Yeah, that is so common, that I hear all the time. But obviously the work that I do, I hear a lot of people's cancer journeys, and so many things that you've said resonated about. You're on that conveyor belt, you've got all the support, you've got all the appointments, and you have to just keep going. It's like a full-time job, isn't it? And then at the end of it is, okay, off you go. And it's like, off you go where? Off you go to how you were before. Off you go, do I need to make some changes? And for you, of course, I can only imagine what it's like as a mother watching your son go through that. And how do you process that emotionally, and all the emotions that must have gone with that must have been quite overwhelming.
It was the whole time. It was the only time in my life where I've wished I've had cancer instead. And every mother would say the same. And people would go, I don't know how you're getting through this. I don't know how you're getting through this. And I'm like, you just have to.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it's you, everyone just assumes that you're okay because everyone's going, it's great news. You should be fine now.
And it is great news that he's got the all clear, and it's great news.
Absolutely.
Great
Yeah.
news that, and again, this is, I hear this so many times. Great news, and you're very grateful, and how amazing that we've got the NHS, and you know better than anybody because you've worked in it, and your husband works in it. You know, you're part of that world. So for a lot of people, going cancer in the hospitals are quite an alien thing. But I don't know if that makes it better or worse that you've got that knowledge.
I think it's a bit of both because I think because I've seen people going through chemotherapy and I've seen a really bad side of chemotherapy, sometimes a bit too much.
Yeah.
And you can't, and what the doctors tell you, they're very, because the doctor, first of all, she didn't use the word cancer.
Oh.
And she told us she didn't use the word cancer. And it was the first day, he'd had a scan, and then we got pushed round to oncology that day. We had the scan, and she called it, you see the oncology for every lump and bump. And she was talking like they were going to do some tests and stuff, but she didn't actually use the word cancer. It was me that said, so it's cancer then. And she said, yeah. And because I use the word cancer daily in my job, it was a word that I didn't want to be scared of.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be scared of a word
Yeah.
because I didn't want to give that word power over everything because it's a huge umbrella.
Yeah.
And yeah. So like when they were saying things, it was, we knew what the side effects were. We knew that we knew what to expect in a way, but linking, it was very
Going the theory of it and the theory of this, and as well, everybody's different and reacts different because I think when you get any medication, these are all the possible side effects. You might get some, you might not get others. But yeah, to be in the middle of that and and again, my heart goes out to you because I cannot imagine when you're going through cancer yourself, as I have. As I say, you're so busy trying to keep your head above water. But when you're trying to manage as well, your son who's a baby, your little girl, your husband as well, as a family unit, it's going to have affected you all so deeply.
Yeah, I mean, it's because we went through everything with him, so it was like we lived it ourselves completely.
Yeah.
And it was very overwhelming, and it was very much you have to just try and just get through it. And looking back, I don't know how I did it. It was such a blur. And I think that's probably what affected me a lot afterwards, because I couldn't process this trauma because I was trying to see it I was thinking of it like in a medical way. But actually it's also, I shouldn't have been thinking it in a medical way. I shouldn't have been focusing on the medicine of it because it was very medical. It was very intense, and we were trying to get on top of symptoms. We were like, I was then thinking in my own medical brain about managing symptoms.
Yeah.
And managing this, and we were looking out for everything. We didn't have the bubble of a bit of naivety, and it was yeah. So I think we had that fear as well.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, and again, I said, this is so common. People get to the end of treatment, everyone around you who's very supportive and loving and just wants you to be how you were before and wants your baby to be better. So, oh, that's great. It's better now. And you can crack on with life again. Oh, off you go. But how did you manage that transition? Because I know it was difficult for you.
Yeah, it was. So it was great news. We were very, we were ecstatic, and it was a huge relief. And he just went back. He slotted back into reality quite nicely, because he just started going back to nursery,
Yeah.
we tried to keep it as normal as we could throughout it, but coming out of it, I think it was about a couple of weeks after he rang the bell. So we wait for tests and everything. When he rang the bell, it's a couple of weeks afterwards, and I just fell apart.
Yeah.
I completely fell apart, because it was just, I think everything just came out. I spent months and months not being able to cry, not being able to share my emotions. I wasn't able to be. The only people that I could hug was my children.
Yeah.
I couldn't hug my husband. I couldn't have people going, "How are you?" Or, because while I was going through it, because I was like, I don't want to break down. I just need to push through it. And I went back to work, and I really struggled. And I struggled to help the people that I'd loved helping before. And I struggled to bring myself away from it enough to be professional. I brought home a lot of their pain, and I brought home a lot of their suffering, and it was it was hard. I just needed some space.
Yeah.
And I really struggled with confidence. While he was going through it, I didn't take care of myself at all. So afterwards, everything, I just felt stripped of who I was. I felt stripped of confidence. I hated myself. I couldn't leave the house. I was very anxious. Oof. And it took a hell of a lot to build myself up again.
Yeah.
So I took some time off work, and then I started, I think this was in August, I started going deep. So I'm quite a spiritual person, and I've done a lot of meditation and yoga and manifestation and everything in the past. And I knew that I needed to change, because I was getting more and more frustrated. I was getting angry at the world. I was questioning everything, and it just was not very healthy. And it wasn't good for my children, and it wasn't good for my family. And I needed to change.
And this is part of the process, isn't it? And even though you've not been through it yourself, almost as a mother, you have been through it. Like you say, you wanted to swap places with your little boy.
Yeah.
And you've been through the trauma of the diagnosis, the trauma and all the upset and everything that goes with going through that treatment. And at the end of it, it is going back and looking at your life and not blaming yourself, but I went through a period of thinking, well, I don't want to end up here again. And I'm realizing a lot of things about myself now, some of them nice, some of them not so nice, that I wanted to change. And that period of readjustment is not just throw yourself back into your old life. Actually, for me, part of my healing was I need to work out who I am, because I'd lost myself during my cancer diagnosis. And I hear what you're saying about losing yourself, and then getting back to, but who am I? I'm more than just a cancer patient or somebody's mother or whatever the label is you want to give us. We are whole people. We're quite spiritual like you as well. So that healing, I always think, is like peeling layers off an onion.
Yeah.
And that's draining as well, because I just wanted a fix. I was like, just want to do this course, or I want to do this thing, and that'll be the thing. And I want to change my diet, and that'll be the thing that sets me. I actually want to change my diet. I realized some other things that weren't working, and I changed them. And then I realized when it went on, and almost, is this ever going to end?
Yeah.
And now one of my spiritual teachers said, that's the joy of life. We're always learning and evolving. Yeah.
Definitely.
Try and embrace that now rather than being
Exactly.
frustrated with it. Yeah.
And one of the questions that came up for me was not who am I, but who do I want to be?
Yeah.
Who do I want to
That's a
be?
question.
Yeah. And how do I want this? When I started a bit more personal development afterwards, I started thinking, what can I bring that's good out of it? How can I use this as a learning opportunity? How
Mhm.
can I learn? How can I use like a learning opportunity in life? What can I learn from it? And
Yeah.
through my experience of palliative care, I've learned a hell of a lot about life,
Yeah.
because people just, they start understanding what life is about when they're faced with death. They start to understand what's important to them. They start to understand their strengths. They start to
Mm.
understand a sense of community, a sense of purpose in life. And it's lessons that I don't think I would have learned otherwise. And I didn't tell anybody about my story. I didn't tell any patients about my story, and it was a very different experience going back after so than
Can you imagine?
before. But I needed to do something. For me, I needed to do something meaningful,
Yeah.
and I felt that the emotional support after cancer, after a survivor has come through cancer, there isn't that support in the healthcare system as we know it, as we should have. There's counselling, there's therapy, but the state of the NHS at the moment is, it's everybody's stressed,
Yeah.
everybody's overworked, and they don't have the resources for it. They've
No.
got they've got their best intention, but they haven't got the resources to support everybody afterwards. And
Mm.
it's coming away from healthcare into into a world where we just have I can't explain it. We have some support holistically. That's where we need it
Yeah,
to come through.
absolutely. I think the NHS is brilliant in a crisis.
Absolutely.
And like you said, there is support there, but it's almost like sticking a plaster on a cut rather than why you're bleeding in the first place. It's
Yeah.
just like to treat the symptoms. And that's not a criticism of anybody. I think the NHS is amazing, but very stretched, as we all know. Can't give everything. And that so brings me on to what is the work that you're doing now? Because I know that you're helping other people now, which is just amazing. After the journey that you've been through, you be quite entitled to put up shop and say, do you know what? I've given now. I've done my bit. I'm going to put my feet up. But you're not, are you? You're out there and you're helping other
Yeah.
people. So tell us about that.
So I'm now a holistic coach, a holistic life coach for women after cancer. It's the majority of my clients are women that have had cancer themselves and have recovered from cancer, and in the same position I was, feeling lost, overwhelmed by fear of it coming back and fear to move on, and just wanting the confidence that they'd lost
Yeah.
and wanting meaning in their life again. So my passion has always been around helping people. I've always wanted to help people. And I've always had I've always had a link to cancer in any way, professional, now personal. And I wanted to really help people and really make a difference. I think it's a really, people don't want to talk about, people don't, if friends, family don't want to talk about the negative. They don't necessarily want to bring it up all the time. And a lot of the time, friends and family avoid the conversation and avoid talking about the fear and don't want to talk about it, don't want to talk about it.
Oh,
So,
you must stay positive. You hear that so
yeah,
many times. Yeah. And it's
yeah,
like, must I? Why must I? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just think positively. Yeah, I'm a very positive person, but I think you're in denial if you don't think about it or don't, you're playing on that fear really. So it's important to really identify what's holding what the fear is and what you're holding back to be able to move on. And I think if you don't confront the fears and work through them, they're just going to grow.
Yeah.
They're just
And I see this a lot. And this is probably what I used to do is distraction was a great thing. I'm busy at work, or I'm busy in my social life. I'll do something else, and that will stop me thinking about it. But it's still there. It's still there. We
never
don't deal
goes
with
away.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you should I've learned that you've just got to confront a fear. And as soon as you can get through that, the fear isn't what you think it is. It's not what your mind is telling you.
Yeah.
It's when you break it down, you can get through it. And I think it's the fear the big fear everyone thinks about with cancer is the fear of dying.
Yeah.
But that can be broken down into so many bits, because you've got to understand, why is that fear there?
Yeah.
Why are you fearing that? What about it are you fearing? And I think I'm used to having these conversations with people, and it's a conversation that nobody feel they're scared of me coming to talk about it. But when they've had it, I feel so much better.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you can talk about it openly, and it's a conversation that people should be having anyway.
Yeah.
And breaking down anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, it's so refreshing to hear that you've come out the other side. The work that you're doing now, I can so relate to it, because I get contacted so much by people that just feel lost, feel alone. And the work that you're doing, I know, is going to be helping so many people. So if somebody's watching this or listening to this now, think really resonate with what Rosie's spoken about, how can they get in touch with you, Rosie? And I'm going to put some links around the show notes here. So the links that you've sent to me of how, but tell me about the work that you do and how you can help people.
So I'm on social media. So I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and recently TikTok. And I've got a website as well, which I think you'll link, won't you?
I will. I'll put all the links. Yeah. Yeah.
And on the website, I've got a free book about confidence after cancer. So that's just a start off. But the work that I would do, so my coaching program consisted of the emotional support. It's based around holistic practices. So I use the traditional coaching techniques, and then I use and add on holistic practices. So I add on things like Reiki, EFT tapping, breath work, guided meditation, just to get more of a deeper awareness of these emotions that we don't understand in ourselves. So it's coaching on a deeper level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And I've had the same experience. So it's not just sticking a plaster on it. It's not just giving you a headache tablet to take the headache away. It's looking at what are the causes of this and what can you do to go forward and, like you say, turn this horrible experience, and nobody would wish upon themselves, but actually turn it into something positive and to help you live your life much better in the future. Yeah.
And don't let cancer take everything from you.
Absolutely. Love that. I think that's the perfect, really, thing to end on. Don't let it take things from you, because we all know what it does to us. But you're a shining example, Rosie, of how you can come through the most unimaginable period in your life and everything you've learned from it, and you're helping other people. I just think that's amazing. So thank you so much for talking to me today. It's really been very moving, but uplifting as well. And I love everything that you've said about moving forward and the work that you do with people. I'm sure you're going to be helping so many people. And social media is great. It's got its ups and downs, but we can share online now. And so people they don't have to be looking around their local area. Anybody really can get in touch with you, can't they?
And I've met so many inspiring women on there.
Oh, brilliant.
It's refreshing and very inspiring to listen to people's stories, listen and learn from people, and celebrate wins together. It's great.
Absolutely. And it's always a story of hope, because
Definitely.
as soon as you hear that word cancer, for a lot of people, hope goes out the window, but you're giving people hope. And that is truly beautiful. So thank you so much for talking to me.
You're very welcome, Gabby. Thank you very much for me.
Thank you. You there? That was such an emotional podcast recording, speaking to Rosie. What an amazing woman she is. When I first met Rosie and I heard her story, I was just so taken aback by what an incredibly strong woman. She's been through the most horrible experience that any of us can really imagine, watching your baby, your little boy, go through cancer treatment, not just once, but twice, going through chemotherapy and everything that went with it. And I absolutely could so resonate with what she said about somehow, as a family, they all got through that horrible time in their life. And then they got the great news that he was all clear. And it was then that she fell apart. And I hear this so many times from people that I speak to, thinking that there's something wrong with them when they're expected to be elated and feel triumphant when cancer treatment is over. And for many people, that's the most difficult time in their lives. And so Rosie, similar story to myself, really. She's now turned that horrible experience into something really positive. She believes a lot of the things that I believe, that holistically, that's how we need to treat ourselves. If you don't deal with fear, if you just try and suppress it, it's going to keep coming back and keep affecting you. She believes that, and I believe that as well. And for me, it's nice to know a medical professional agrees with my philosophies. Because Rosie, I've been through a cancer experience myself, and I've done a lot of studying, a lot of reading, and I really believe that suppressed emotions, and a lot of us have these things, guilt, fear, anger, whatever it resentment is a common one as well. If you don't deal with those things, sooner or later they're going to pop up in a physical symptom, and none of us want that. We all want to live in the best life that we can, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but I'm learning all the time, and as I touched on in the podcast with Rosie, for me, it's like peeling the layers of an onion. Deal with one thing, and then it's on to the next thing, and that can sound like hard work, but it's actually beautiful work, and I'm taking the time now to work on myself, and I work with my coaching clients, the same as Rosie does, on helping them realize, actually, living in fear or living with these negative emotions, that's not how we should be living. Yeah, and sometimes a horrible experience like a cancer diagnosis or dealing with a family member who's got a cancer diagnosis can give us the opportunity to take a big step back and just reassess what's going on in our lives, what's working and what's not working. There's no portioning blame here. There's actually just thinking, okay, I know what's happening now. I can see this. I'm getting feedback. I'm getting things happening in my life that I don't want to happen anymore. What can I do to change? And that's just amazing. And I love how Rosie finished very much on a message of hope. And looking at her little boy, I can tell she's so inspired by him because he's beaten cancer. As a little baby, as a child, he's beaten cancer. And he's now taking that triumphant thriver mentality into his life. He really believes, I'm sure, encouraged by his wonderful mother, Rosie, he can achieve anything that he wants to. So that's my message for today. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast. As always, it's a pleasure to speak to you. The notes somewhere around here will be how you can contact Rosie if you want to get in touch with her. I'm sure she'd love to hear from you, and you can download her free book as well. But thank you so much for listening to this podcast.